Hello Year 12s, this is a video on the coursework that you have to do in Year 13. Given that school is closed, it makes good sense to set you off on this and explain what it is you have to do. This document that I'm using I'm going to include on Go for Schools and Google Classroom, so have a look there. It's the Critical Anthology for English Literature B, and let's sort of talk through it really. There are 6 different aspects that you are to read. The first one, as it says, is narrative. The second one is Marxism. Third, feminism. Fourth, post-colonial ways of reading a text. Fifth, eco-critical. And then the sixth, the literary value in the canon. So the canon. What do these things mean? What do you have to do with them? You will have to produce 2 pieces of coursework between 1250 and 1500 words, not including quotations or bibliography. One of the pieces of coursework is on poetry, and typically one of the teachers will teach a poet or some poets to you, and you will then decide which of these 6 schools of thought you want to apply to that poet and their poetry. The second piece of coursework is on prose. You will choose the prose yourself, you will choose the fiction, the book, the novel, and you then have to choose a different school of thought to then write about or apply to a text. Some things to be aware of. There is not so much value in choosing a text like, say, 1984 by George Orwell and looking at it from a Marxist way of reading, because it's broadly considered to be a kind of Marxist text, isn't it? It's a critique of communism, communist life, Marxist thought, Marxist thinking, and therefore it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to say anything truly interesting about it. The same thing applies to looking at, say, Margaret Atwood from a feminist perspective. You know, what new, what interesting stuff can you truly come up with there? I would argue not so much. So instead what you're looking at is applying one of these schools of thought in a way which is unique and interesting to you, something that piques your curiosity, and then you go away and explore it. So what I want you to do in the first instance is read Section 1, Ideas about Narrative, Section 2, Marxist Ways of Reading, and Section 3, the Feminist Ways of Reading. And then your task becomes reading it and sort of considering it, thinking about it. So let me go to the, let's choose the feminist one, why not? Section 3, it means a bit of scrolling. Hopefully not too far, not past where I'm supposed to go. There's Marxism. And Feminist Ways of Reading, here we are. Thank you for your patience. It says, while there are many different types of feminist criticism, in this section you will see writers who focus on the struggles women face in society and the ways these struggles are reflected and questioned, or not reflected and not questioned, in literature. Texts are read in a way that critically explores the male-centered nature of civilization and therefore the phallocentric nature of much literature. Feminist critics consider different gender representations within texts, but also question whose voices are heard and whose attitudes and values are assumed within the text. Gender issues are clearly central to those who write about literature through a feminist lens. Texts are often criticised for focusing on male protagonists, while women have marginal roles. Feminist critics often reposition the focus and either sympathise with the oppression of women or celebrate the attempts of women to assert themselves. Some feminist critics use ideas from feminist literary criticism to read the text in a way that is counter to the commonly accepted reading. So if we zoom in on this, literally and metaphorically, what I'm asking you to do is consider the following questions as you're looking at a piece of literature, whether that be a poem or whether that be a novel. Are and does the text focus on the male sort of centered nature of civilization? Is the text inherently male or is it female? Does it matter if there's a male poet writer or a female poet or writer? Does that have an impact? Um, does the text seek to reflect and question the struggles of women in society? If it does, why? If it doesn't, why not? How are different genders represented? We should probably even question what a gender even is. But how are they represented? Whose voices do we hear in the text? Whose attitudes and values are assumed within the text? I mean, this is reasonably straightforward stuff, I think. The coursework, sometimes you might hear a teacher refer to it as the NEA, which stands for non-examined assessment. It really is an opportunity for you to go and explore what it is that you want to sort of explore in a piece of literature. And the earlier we start this, the easier it's likely to be. I think that's it for now. What we want you to do is pick that prose novel. That's the part which is down to you. Try and pick something that's interesting to you, something that you've got genuine curiosity about, something that you are going to be prepared to spend time and effort studying, because if you put some time and effort in, it's likely to reward you with some better work in the long run. So I think we'll leave it there. If you have any questions, use the Google Classroom to ask away, and we'll aim to get back to you as quickly as we possibly can.